She's like literally in this black and white Kansas world. She needs to go to Oz and scream in color. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Gasp, the podcast for the girls, the gays, and especially the gay girls. Okay, if I'm like smiling and looking like 2 feet off the eye line, it's because my girlfriend is here, Sophia, listening and watching, because she wanted to learn about what we have to talk about today, right? Yep. Pretty much we're going to be talking about how the Eras Tour is ending, obviously. And my big prediction, which obviously a lot of other gaylors share, which is the karma theory coupled with the Friend of Dorothea theory. So we're going to cover a lot. And I have literally like 6 pages of notes. Hopefully we can get it done in one episode. If for some reason you finish the episode and I haven't talked about like Friend of Dorothy, it's because it's going to be in another episode because I guess we've been talking so long, which is a possibility. So yeah, we're going to be talking about karma and the Friend of Dorothy theory. If you're not watching on video, I'm wearing I'm trying to kind of symbolize the yellow brick road vibes because I'm wearing this yellowish shirt. And then I was thinking these pants, if you can't see, they're kind of like the colors of what we assume karma is going to be, which is like a plaid orange, pink, white, lesbian flag colors. Okay, so the Eras Tour is ending. The Eras Tour is going to end December 8th. That is, interestingly enough, like 5 days before Taylor Swift's birthday, which is December 13th, 2024, which is also going to be Friday the 13th. And as we know, 13 is a super important number for her. I think something is going to be released that 13th, and I think she's going to announce it the Friday of her Vancouver shows. More specifically, I think she's going to announce karma. So we'll get into the karma theory first. And I also just wanted to add, there's a lot of these theories that are kind of like, I don't really view them as separate and competing. I view them as like interconnecting, and they could kind of all be accurate. I think that Taylor Swift Easter eggs through a lot of different metaphors and themes, like Emily Dickinson, like Wizard of Oz, Cinderella, and like old fairy tales. Like there's a lot of things that she pulls references from. So I don't think that there's like one true theory, but I do think specifically she's been flagging Wizard of Oz a lot recently, and karma, I think, is going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'm going to be so pissed. This is the longest tour of her life. She's been touring for 1 year and 9 months, and she's been touring all of her different eras, as we know. There's another theory that kind of goes into this, which is her performance art lore theory, which is that she's performing these different faces of herself and these different eras of her own life, but none of them are like her true self, and that we're gonna like meet the real her after this is all over, which I do think is also interesting. That meet me at midnight 12, aka December, is like midnight. I think it would make sense that we might meet her at midnight, but I'll go into this theory probably in next episode, the week right before her last shows, which I can't even accept that. And the only reason I'm like doing okay with it ending is this anticipation of hopefully something amazing happening at the end of it. She also re-released most of her albums, but not all of them. The question is why, and does this mean something? A lot of people are saying that she's leaving her debut and reputation left, because what's left after all of this is her name, debut, and her reputation, which I think is compelling. But I'm not really sure. I think the reason why she hasn't released Reputation yet is that the songs from the vault on Reputation are so gay that she has to come out before she releases them. I don't know. That just makes sense to me. I don't know about debut. I feel like she forgot debut ever existed. Let's really get into the karma theory and just like literally all the Easter eggs that I feel like have ever occurred about it, my predictions, the story of karma, and just kind of like the history of karma, right? Karma is supposedly the album between 1989 and Reputation. If you're familiar with her old pattern, kind of up until like 1989-ish, she would release an album every 2 years. And what happened in 2016 was that she didn't release an album. Now, obviously, a lot of people say, okay, this is because of like the Kanye and the Kim Ye situation or whatever. Or is it because of something larger, which is that she couldn't release the album that she was intending to release in 2016? Because 1989 came out in 2014. 2016, we didn't get an album. So the theory goes that Karma was this album that was supposed to be released in 2016, and for some reason she couldn't end up releasing it, most likely due to her management or this like fear that she was going to lose fans if it was a queer album, et cetera, et cetera. This album's theory and vibes, you know how every era she has a very distinct aesthetic going on. The aesthetic that's kind of surrounding Karma, which is this like 2015 into 2016 time period, was her Bleachella era and this like really like almost grunge vibe. She was wearing plaid a lot. And she like went to Coachella. It's interesting that she had this very distinct aesthetic that was never captured in any album of hers. Reputation was like obviously very black and white, like mad, like had a lot of beat to it, like revenge album, which we love, but it's not the same thing of this very distinct like bleached short hair. Like we never saw that come up in like a music video, which is just kind of random. Now how we associate Karma is like orange aesthetic with flames, this idea that she's going to maybe like burn everything down. And that's why the album is orange. Maybe she needs to burn down the Lover House to be able to release Karma. These are all things that are like associated with Karma. The other question is maybe this album wasn't even like meant to be called Karma. Like it might have been like an album that she was going to release during her Bleachella era and then only started like talking about it as Karma once she was not able to release it, and then kind of like gave it another aesthetic as it kind of turned sour. That's a theory that I kind of have, is that it turned into this revenge album because she's saying like, I couldn't release it, so now you're all gonna get Karma and I'm gonna release Karma. The Karma is the Karma. Like your Karma is gonna be through me releasing Karma. You know what I mean? This is also the time that she was most likely dating Karlie Kloss. 2015, 2016 was like the heat of it all when they were like spotted so many times together. Also when they were spotted kissing at the 1975 concert. That was in 2015. And then they like went to that Drake party and they had the golden tattoos on each other. They were like kissing each other on cheeks. Like they did trips together. Like this is peak Kaylor. So it kind of would make sense that this album would be like mostly Karlie Kloss inspired, and another big reason of like why maybe it's not able to be released. Let's also remember, before anyone's like, why couldn't she release a gay album? She was the most famous person in the world. She was not the most famous person in the world at this time. And she had only just had like an actual like best-selling album from like 1989. She was obviously very famous, but not until 1989 was she able to like kind of expand out of country. Her brand could have been like, we cannot risk like this newfound fame that you've gotten. Oh, and gay marriage was only just legalized in 2015. So it's not the craziest thing that her management was like, maybe don't be gay. I mean, obviously it's like fucked up, but it's not like crazy that someone would do that right before or after gay marriage was literally legalized in the US. So for all the youngins out there that are like, oh my God, it's so normal to be gay, it like literally has not been normal for that long, and it kind of isn't still. She was also under Big Machine at this time, who later screwed her over, so it also wouldn't be surprising if they refused to let her release it. The question is Karma buried? Is it in the grave? And when she talks about like digging up the grave, something still laying in the grave or something in the vault. Is it the vault tracks, or is it this album that has literally not been released yet because it's in the grave? I know sometimes when we talk about in the grave, people think like the Karlie Kloss relationship. I think that could also be coupled with Karma. Also, Karma, Car, Karlie Kloss's nickname is Car. A lot of people call her Car. Taylor Swift talks about Car a lot. Buy the car you want. I slur your name till someone puts me in the car. So, like, it's not the craziest thing that she'd be also calling the album Karma for Carly, and Car is like her nickname. So there's another Easter egg there. Question of why it wasn't released is also coupled with the fact that Karlie Kloss's manager was Scooter Braun at the time. Scooter, who we know fucking sucks for so many reasons, is also like a homophobe. And also, it's not just Taylor Swift's reputation at stake, it's also Karlie Kloss's. So they both have to agree to be kind of together in this moment, because if Taylor Swift comes out, Karlie Kloss is kind of like pushed with that. So was it Scooter Braun that was trying to protect her image? Was there like this detailed contract that needed to be signed by both parties? Like, we don't really know, but there's a lot of forces in the way of releasing a queer album in 2015, 2016. Taylor Swift had hated Scooter Braun. Is this because he had like thwarted this album? And when Taylor Swift talks about how being so mad that Scott sold her masters to Scooter, is that the underlying reason of why she hates Scooter Braun so much? Because he prevented her from coming out? We don't know. So the question is, was Lover her first attempt at coming out, or was it actually Karma? And was Lover her second attempt, and then that was thwarted by the masters being sold? And is Karma now third attempt? That would be interesting, because Exile is supposed to end in 3, 2, 1. Maybe this is her third time, and third time's the charm, that she's trying to come out, because it's literally been thwarted like so many times. And then this is kind of going back to what I was saying about if Karma was not actually originally named Karma. Maybe it was named Karma to get back at Big Machine and Scooter for what they did. And Taylor's saying like Karma's going to take its course no matter how long it takes. So another reason why people think Karma's coming next, and when we first saw the Eras Tour begin and we're like looking at all these Easter eggs, one of the big things is that an orange door drops down at the end of the Eras Tour. And is this like a signal for her to exit through Karma when the Eras Tour ends? Maybe she exits out of this door. The theory kind of goes with this performance art lore theory as well, that when Taylor stops performing her straight Miss Americana era, which is pretty much her performing all of her eras, and the one thing that all of her eras have in common is that like she's still trying to be this like Miss Americana image. Even Reputation, it stays within certain lines, right? She's going to make sure everyone receives their karma and come out by burning all of them down. And all of these eras are still under the Lover house. So that's the Lover theory combined with this theory that I'll get into later. Okay, so let's get into the specific karma Easter eggs and evidence. I've already kind of talked about the like general theory, and I know it's like there's so many little interconnecting aspects of the theory, but it's pretty much just being like, fuck all of you guys, I'm coming out. So here's the evidence kind of in like chronological order. I'm sure I'm missing some because she's insane and she puts so many Easter eggs, but these are kind of like the main ones. So in April 2016, she did a Vogue 73 Questions interview. And one of the questions they asked her was, what do you think is the most important life lesson for someone to learn? And she says that karma's real, which is just kind of a very specific thing to say. And this is in 2016, so that could have been like right around the time that this album was thwarted, and she had to kind of like switch gears into Reputation and find another way to like make an angry album that wasn't as queer coded. And by the way, as we all know, Reputation is extremely queer coded. So it's just kind of insane to imagine like what karma could hold, like if it's gayer than Reputation. Kind of segueing into Reputation, in August 2017, in the Look What You Made Me Do music video, she wears an orange outfit swinging in a cage, which kind of signifying that like this era, this orange era, is like trapped. And this is kind of the first time that we see orange coupled with karma. So we start to think like, okay, wait, what is this orange era? We haven't seen it before. Maybe this is karma. And it's just kind of like the metaphor that karma is trapped and can't get out. Orange Taylor is outside the plane at the end, and she's like standing there, like painting over the plane that says TS6, and then she paints over Reputation. So there were theories at the time being like, wait, is this not TS6? Was TS6 actually supposed to be karma or whatever like Orange Taylor this era represents? Because as you know, lining up in front of the plane in the Reputation or Look What You Made Me Do music video, there's all these like distinct eras, but we're like, who is this Orange Taylor? There's also a scene of her standing in front of a vault with like a bat, and she's trying to like break open this vault. I know that now a lot of mainstream Swifties will be like, oh, she's just trying to like break open like from the vault songs. It's like, really? Or is it like something larger than this? Is Look What You Made Me Do actually just a song for like Kanye West? Or is she mad at like her management? Is she mad at like Scott Borchetta? Is she mad at like Scooter Braun preemptively that she doesn't have no idea how much Scooter Braun's going to fuck over her life? But that they're stopping her from doing something. And she's like, she literally says, the world moves on, another day, another drama, but not for me, not for me. All I think about is karma. And it's just like, the amount of times that she references karma is beyond just her being like, oh, you guys are all going to get karma. It's like all she's thinking about is how much they screwed her over, and she can't release the album Karma. She says, the world moves on, but one thing's for sure. Maybe I got mine, but you'll all get yours. When I first heard this song, I remember thinking like, wait, when's the revenge going to happen? Like, obviously the whole album is revenge, but it seems like a threat. It's more than just, oh, this is your karma right now. It's like, you're all going to get your karma. And it feels like something she's like plotting and planning. And as we know, she's fucking insane. And I think she said this on a late night show. She was like, can I plan something 3 years in advance? I think I'm going to try to plan something 3 years in advance. I do believe that was 3 years ago. Was it? So that was in 2022. So she could mean that she's plotting something for 2025. She's crazy. Okay. Then the first time we see like karma written out as a real like full Easter egg is in 2019 during the Man music video. Karma is written twice on that wall, once in black and one in orange. And I feel like the black one is trying to like show the one from Midnight's, and the karma one is written in orange. So now it's solidifying, okay, these orange aesthetics we've seen are for karma. Karma is orange, and it's not just once, it's twice, which tracks because then in Midnight's, she releases the karma track. During Midnight's Mayhem with Me, which I think is kind of funny because it's just like showing these symbols of like me at midnight, Midnight's with me. Ridiculous. But Taylor announces Karma as a song on Midnight's, and then she like laughs in a very sinister way that very much shows that she's like aware of the karma theory. Karma is also track 11, and Taylor loves adding things up into numbers. So 1 + 1 = 2, aka 2 versions of Karma, a song, and an album. I don't think it's just the song. I think she just put out the song to like appeal to people and like give even more of an Easter egg and to show us that there's like something larger coming. And in the song Karma, she's like, karma's gonna hunt you down. Like, it's an active thing that hasn't even fully finished out yet, right? Like, we're still waiting for the final karma to happen. So here are the Easter eggs from Karma, the music video, which was released in 2023. There's a lot of Dorothy and Wizard of Oz scenes. So that's also why we're talking about Wizard of Oz today and Friend of Dorothy and how it couples with this theory. Because I do think that she started to kind of like add the Wizard of Oz imagery specifically in Karma to show that Karma is going to be like one of her queerest albums. So she has a Moon and a Saturn reference with Ice Spice. And she's kind of like showing Ice Spice the ropes. So there's another symbolism of like two things. So there's two of them there. Maybe one symbolizes the single and one symbolizes the album. And she's kind of like showing her younger self, aka like Ice Spice could kind of symbolize her younger self, showing her how to like maybe like get through it, getting through the turmoil of her karma era and it being like pushed down. And there's also a lot of astrological vibes that occur with karma. Like obviously karma is like something that's very much like the planets will fuck you up. Like it's out there in the sky. It's astrological, right? So that's another reason why I think the moon and the Saturn is kind of like a big karma reference to Karma the album. What moon and Saturn mean together is that like emotions and logic are like in conflict with each other. So this could kind of make sense. Like it's almost like a conflict between her younger self and her new self. Like of, okay, emotionally, she knows she wants to release it. Logically, what is this going to do for her career? In the final scene in the Karma music video, she has this coffee scene that shows like a clock. First of all, if you guys don't listen to Carly Simon, I think this is such a clear reference to You're So Vain, which is Taylor Swift has said is like her favorite song of all time. And she says there are clouds in my coffee, which I just think is a reference to that. But back to like Karma, one nail on the left-hand side of the cup is blue and on the other hand side is black. I know everyone was like, okay, 1989 is coming next and then Reputation. I immediately was like, I think this is a Karma reference to Karma the album, because Karma was supposed to be in between 1989 and Reputation. And what's in between that? A clock. And as the music video ends, it turns to midnight, which I just is just confirming to me that it's like Karma is coming at midnight. We meet her at midnight, and this original album was in between 1989 and Reputation. It just like could not be clearer to me. Her Easter eggs in her outfits for Karma have also been like very specific. I feel like she's almost overdone this in her outfits lately. She's wearing a lot of astrological outfits, I think, like during her birthday, which by the way, she went to a lesbian club with all of her like gay friends, and Travis Kelce didn't go because he had quote practice. It's like he can go to her goddamn birthday. You could fly him out for like 2 hours of her birthday, but no, she wanted to be at a lesbian bar. And she wore this dress that had like different constellations on it, which I feel like is a Karma reference. But she's also wearing a lot of orange, pink, and white. That seems to be like the new era's colors. And also what happens to be the lesbian flag. She's been wearing these colors out and about more during surprise song dresses and during her 1989 outfits. And I'll get into this more with Friend of Dorothea, but it's just so clear to me that like these colors represent like daylight and sunrise and also the lesbian flag, but just like coming into the light of it all. We also see a lot of plaid, which is a reference back to the original Karma era during her Bleachella moments. She's been wearing these plaid outfits during Chiefs games, out and about to like award shows, etc. Like the plaid is like actually kind of ridiculous at this point. No one wears plaid anymore. So this is very specific. So that's kind of the bulk of all the Easter eggs for Karma. There's a lot there. I truly think it is coming at some point. I believe that it's going to be the next album. If it's not, perhaps it's after Reputation. But I'm a Karma truther. So this story of Karma and Taylor Swift's coming out is not just about this Insular album. I also think she's really showing her like journey to coming out through her entire like Eras Tour set list, her pattern of albums, and specifically through Karma. And a lot of the references that she's using are from Wizard of Oz. And I think Wizard of Oz is a great way for her to showcase this journey. And like, it's a tumultuous journey to like, first of all, find out you yourself are queer, and then also to come out to other people. But this yellow brick road has been like the continual theme that we've seen. And she's been flagging Wizard of Oz, I think even before she even wrote Karma. So I think Wizard of Oz is kind of like the larger way that she's viewed her own gay journey even before Karma happened. And Karma is just kind of like the actual way she's going to come out, like through karma. That's my theory. Perhaps she might come out in karma, but then like the 13th album, her true self is like really encapsulating everything. Or maybe karma is just going to be like the peak before she comes out. Either way, Karma is a queer album that I believe has been erased, that needs to come to the light before we see Taylor's true self. And I think that like Taylor has really like used Wizard of Oz in order to like showcase this journey. Let's get into the Friend of Dorothy theory that obviously is on all of our minds. I wanted to try to get to like every single piece of evidence for this theory. And the more I was like doing research and like writing it all down in my notes, I was like, holy shit. I mean, it could not be more fucking obvious. So Taylor associates herself as a friend of Dorothy, but also as Dorothy. So when we think about this theory, I think we should think about it less as like the actual like clear story of the Wizard of Oz and more like the queer interpretation of the Wizard of Oz, and how throughout history, like the LGBTQ community has resonated with this story. So think about it less as like, oh, she wants to go home to Kansas, as like the story paints it out, and more like how gays have viewed themselves in the story. So as a gay in the story, you don't want to go back to Kansas. You want to go to Oz. And that's how like queers have used this story to like paint a picture, like the larger picture of the LGBTQ, like struggle to like find community and like find ourselves. So it's not about going back to Kansas, guys. She wants to leave Kansas. And I do think it's kind of funny that she's dating someone on the Kansas City Chiefs right now. She's like literally in this black and white Kansas world. She needs to go to Oz and scream in color. So the background of this theory is, if you're not already aware, the Wizard of Oz is canonically gay. Is that the way how to say it? Canon? The Wizard of Oz is gay. The Wizard of Oz is canon gay. Being a, quote, friend of Dorothy is one of the most known ways to queer flag or use queer code to communicate that you were gay in the 20th century, especially in the 40s and 50s. And the Wizard of Oz came out, like the movie came out in 1939, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it came out in 1939. So you can't erase the queerness from Friend of Dorothy. Like, it's just gay. So the rainbow didn't even become a part of like how we now see the rainbow flag and the gay flag, and like is a huge symbol for the queer community. That wasn't even a thing for gays until after The Wizard of Oz came out. And obviously we hear the song Somewhere Over a Rainbow. So you can see how much inspiration this movie gave to the LGBTQ community in the US and around the world. And it's like pretty much like a fundamental staple of gay history. It is iconically gay. It is for sure gay. The guy who wrote it has written so many gay things. It's gay, okay? So there's a lot of Swifties that are like, oh my God, like, why is she talking so much about the Wizard of Oz? You can't take away the gayness of it. I won't let you. So Elton John also wrote a song, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which is literally a song about him like on his journey through figuring out he was queer and coming out. Like, it's the Yellow Brick Road is also a huge symbol of kind of closeting and figuring out your own journey to like self-acceptance. So here's Taylor's Dorothy story as I see it. Here's my Thory. Here's my theory of the Friend of Dorothy story and how it kind of aligns with her journey to coming out. Okay, so again, it's not necessarily the literal plot to The Wizard of Oz, but more so the queer interpretation of the movie and story to tell her individual story of coming out. I think she associates herself as Dorothy, and Dorothy is like forced out of Kansas City Chiefs, and goes on a big gay adventure to the big gay city and finds her true power within herself. And also she like meets queer friends along the way. She goes through a traumatic cyclone and uses the power of the witch, which I think is kind of like ironic, because if you saw my episode on witches are lesbians, you could also see the queerness of this aspect to the story too. And she uses the red ruby slippers from the witch to find out her true power and find her own meaning of home. I mean, it's so gay. The song literally that is in the movie is also come out wherever you are. And that also inspired a lot of queer people and really saw this movie as just inherently gay. The song, as I said again, like somewhere over the rainbow, like you're dreaming of a world where you can find yourself. And it really reminds me of like the TTPD aesthetic and kind of like the old fashioned, like she's like in a mental institution in TTPD. And in the beginning of Wizard of Oz, it's literally a black and white film and she's in Kansas and she's dreaming of this like rainbow world where she can like live out her true self. It's so gay. So somewhere over the rainbow is this like dreaming of being able to like have self-expression of like who you actually are. She travels along the yellow brick road, and that's obviously a metaphor for self-acceptance and like coming out. She meets queer friends, specifically the Cowardly Lion, which as I reference in my queer flagging episode, the Cowardly Lion was just immediately queer people took to it and they were like, that is a gay character. There's also a whole spin-off adult like Broadway show of Wizard of Oz that's like has a song about how the Cowardly Lion is gay, and it says like the lion is gay, the lion is gay. Like the Cowardly Lion is gay. And she finds community. She has to travel through the dark forest of all these struggles within herself to find community. She travels through the dark forest into the light. And there's this song as Dorothy leaves with her friends out of the dark woods that literally is called Out of the Woods, Step Out of the Dark into the Light, which is very similar to Taylor Swift's song Out of the Woods. And she has to finally come out on the other side of the darkness. I think this also kind of applies to her surprise song dresses that are kind of showing this like journey from sunset, darkness, sunrise to daylight and going into the dark woods and then coming out into the light. She goes through self-transformation. She goes through fear, love, courage, a black and white life to a life of like Technicolor. And she also references this in Out of the Woods. She goes, the rest of the world was black and white, but we were in screaming color. She's like, the whole other world is black and white, but me and my gay friends, we're living in this world of Technicolor. It couldn't be more obvious. Again, like I said with TTPD, I think this is kind of her third try, of symbolizing this black and white to rainbow aesthetic. I think she tried to do that from Reputation to Lover. And she actually almost named the Lover album Daylight. In her Daylight song, she goes, you have to step into the daylight and let it go. Crazy. But I think that was her attempt after she couldn't come out with Karma. She was like, great, I'll have this black and white, sad and angry Reputation album. And then I'll try to come out after it with Lover, black and white to Technicolor. And I think that was her attempt with Me. That was thwarted. And I think this is her like maybe final try to show this black and white TTPD aesthetic into light and try to show this transformation of closeting into coming out. She's very happy with all of her new friends. They very much want to get to Oz. And Oz is this new, modern, colorful city. Her personal power that she found through the slippers and her journey with all of the gays. She goes home, but is still also transfixed with Oz and her dream of like a new, colorful world. So I think that really symbolizes Taylor's journey, especially with going home back to Kansas and perhaps like her attempts of coming out, having these like blip moments of like seeing this dream and being able to live out this dream and then going back to this black and white sadness, closeting self. She's trying to get back there. And someone had a really good idea of this theory that maybe she's in Return to Oz, which is another movie that came out like I think 40 years ago, that pretty much shows Dorothy like trying to get back to Oz, but she's put into a mental institution. I think that really shows TTPD, that the original Wizard of Oz was like her reputation to love her. And then she went back to Kansas. She's trying to get back to Oz from TTPD into Karma, but people are like literally putting her in mental institutions because she's gay. It's just a crazy story, and I feel like it tracks so much with her albums, the story of the Eras tour, and like everything like that. She wants to go home to her family, but the question is like, what is her true home? Who is her chosen family? Is it in Oz? It seems like it's in Oz. So that's the story. Again, like there's some different little theories that people could latch onto. I think like the larger story is just this transformation down the yellow brick road with all of her queer friends from a life of black and white from Kansas into a life of being gay and in color. The Easter eggs are just, there's so many goddamn Easter eggs to show this theory and like prove it. And like coupled with it being like a Karma thing. And that's why I think Karma is going to be like her third attempt to make this journey like and fully finish the journey. The Easter eggs, I think, kind of show the story of all of her albums. So I'll tell it like in chronological order of her albums. But in Red, she's wearing like, obviously red's the whole aesthetic, but she also wears like red ruby shoes. And I do think it's important to note that like Red is perhaps like the first time this time that she's like having like a sapphic relationship, maybe with Diana. So perhaps this is when she first started to like feel a connection to the Wizard of Oz and like start flagging it. But the Rubies take her on a journey to the gay big city, because what album is next? 1989. In 1989, she writes the song Out of the Woods, which I said before is very similar to the song in The Wizard of Oz called We're Out of the Woods. Pretty much same thing. And the lyrics of that are, you're out of the woods, you're out of the dark, you're out of the night. Step into the sun, step into the light. Get real. Then in Reputation to Lover, obviously we skip over Karma here, black and white aesthetic to screaming color of Lover, her possible second attempt at coming out. Perhaps she thought she would be able to do it under another management. Remember, under Lover, she finally got new management. She left Big Machine. So perhaps she was like, okay, fuck that. They wouldn't let me release Karma. Now I can finally release Lover, which is my second attempt at coming out. They thwarted that with the selling of her masters. This girl is fucking going through it. She's like, I just want to finish going down the yellow brick road and come out. I want to get out of the woods. She can't get out of the woods. Call it what you want. In the lyrics of Call It What You Want, she says, all my flowers grew back as thorns, windows boarded up after the storm. He built a fire just to keep me warm. I was listening to this high in the shower, and I was like, this really makes me think of how her coming out was perhaps thwarted from Karma. When she says flowers, perhaps she's talking about the poppy fields on the way to Oz, and then them regrowing as thorns, like she was pushed back into the woods. And couldn't really like reach Oz, which was like her attempt in Karma. And also when she says this, windows boarded up after the storm, I think that's interesting. Perhaps that's the cyclone. And then fire, he built a fire just to keep me warm. Maybe that's to symbolize Karma. So maybe like this lover, Carly Kloss, call it what you want. Carly, would you want to? Carly, would you want to? Perhaps Carly is the one helping her brave through these dark nights in the woods, and they were trying to come out and they couldn't, and they just like have to get through this, and she's building a fire to keep her warm, the fire from Karma that was lit during Karma that's still lit until it burns everything down. All this to say, she attempted to come out, but instead of having a coming out period, she released Reputation, and then tried to come out again with Lover, couldn't. Maybe this is her third try, which again, I've been repeating this entire episode. But so then in the Lover era, she sings Daylight, which I already said before, but you have to step into the daylight and let it go, almost like letting go this attempt before to come out that wouldn't work. In the Me music video, this is one of the biggest like Easter eggs of the Friend of Dorothy theory and the whole Wizard of Oz journey because there's so much here in the music video. And I really do think that this was Taylor thinking that she was going to come out, and it didn't work. She literally arrives to the Emerald City over a fucking rainbow with Brendan Urie, who's almost like her tin man or like a gay friend on this journey down the yellow brick road. He also has a heart-shaped hole where his heart should be. So some people think, okay, wait, is he the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz? There's also a very clear rainbow brick road that they're dancing on, as well as kind of in the side of the frame, there's also a yellow brick road. This is like just clearly Wizard of Oz references. And I think that this was a song that was like almost Taylor Swift's attempt to like help like the community and like give like hope to people. And that's why I think it's like so earnest and like millennial. And I think that's why she was like, come on kids, spelling is fun, like LGBTQ. Like, I don't know. I think that if she had come out after it, it would have been like a cute pride anthem for like people going through it. But instead it's kind of like, wait, what is this song about? And I think the attempt is to be like a clear happiness, step into the daylight, we made it to Oz song. And it's just kind of sad that it wasn't all that she wanted it to be. After Lover, there's another period of mourning. And everyone's like, why is she so sad in Folklore and Evermore? And it's like, she's trying to like get to Oz and she keeps being pushed back into the woods of Folklore. And then in Evermore, she sings Dorothea, which is a reference to Dorothy. Then we go into Midnights. In the Great War, she sings Place a Poppy in My Hair, Poppy Field from Wizard of Oz. It seems like there's this lover that's staying with her through all of these like turmoils. And I think the Great War kind of like shows this journey really well. Karma also, obviously, from Midnights. And I think is one of the big reasons why I see Wizard of Oz like matching up with Karma a lot is her dressing up as Dorothy and walking along a yellow brick road and smiling in Karma. And I think that's her showing us this journey is going to complete through Karma. Shirley Closs also dressed up as Dorothy for Halloween. And what was interesting is that she wasn't actually wearing red ruby slippers to like match with the outfit, which I thought was interesting. Like the rubies that I gave up. Thought that was very interesting. Maroon, again, she references rubies. There's so many Easter eggs for this story. In TTPD, she sings in LOML, she talks about Cowardly Lion. The coward claimed he was a lion. Perhaps that's her talking to a lover. Perhaps it's her talking to herself and being like, I'm the cowardly lion. I thought that I would be like courageous enough to come out, but I'm still just this cowardly lion who's also gay. Sings Our Field of Dreams Engulfed in Fire. That visual is insane, but also references this field of poppies right before they see this visual of the Emerald City in the distance. And I see this as being like, then they lit on fire and we couldn't go that journey. We had to go back into the woods. Like, how many times did you try to get out of these damn woods? Let's get into the Eras Tour to wrap this up. My additional theory on all of this is not only are the albums lining up with this journey of her on her road to self-acceptance, but also the way that she puts in order the albums also show this journey as well. So the question is the Eras Tour a giant metaphor for the Wizard of Oz? I was doing some research and I didn't even see this in the beginning, but the concert starts out with cyclones in the beginning, like coming down, and then the story starts. So is this her being like, this is my journey and we're almost at the end, we're almost to Oz? There's an Eras Tour mashup that she did of It's Nice to Have a Friend and Dorothea. She sings It's Nice to Have Dorothea, Friend of Dorothea. And she doesn't sing Friend of Dorothea, but it's obviously very much like she's referencing Friend of Dorothy. And this is after Swifties or gaylors have already we started calling ourselves Friend of Dorothea. So like she's acknowledging our community at that point. And even without gaylors calling ourselves Friend of Dorothy, that's a clear reference that she's like, I'm a friend of Dorothy, or I'm Dorothy, you're a friend of Dorothy, we're all gay. So Taylor also has been associating with yellow a lot. She wears yellow when she sings her queer songs, kind of like about closeting and going on this journey. If you look at her Instagram, this has been very clear the last few weeks, especially leading up to her final dates in Vancouver. But she has like a column in her Instagram that are all yellow pictures, which I think is interesting. Also, once TTPD was released, there were a few weeks where all of her Instagrams were black and white, and they've slowly started adding color in, which again, I feel like is like this switch from black and white film to Technicolor. So the TTPD set ends. This is kind of again to the theory that the Eras Tour is to show this journey. The black and white set literally ends and the surprise songs begin. And what we've been seeing with her surprise song dresses is that we've been seeing this like these sunset kind of color dresses, also like bisexual flag. Then she's wearing these dresses that kind of look like the starry night, which could also be a reference to like karma, like astrology, and that like blue glitter midnight's blood that she's been saying is like showing that she's different, she's alien, whatever. But it's going from sunset colors to dark of night colors to then these dresses that are like white, orange, pink, very much sunrise colors. Step out of the dark and into the light. Come out as lesbian. Finally, the last nights of this tour are in Vancouver. Vancouver is also called the Emerald City, which would finally complete her journey down the yellow brick road to finally come into the light, meet all of her gays at the green Emerald City in Vancouver, walk out of the orange door, burn everything down, come out, step into the light, and serve everyone else their karma and their revenge. So hopefully that's what happens. Also, if you guys have been seeing, she's been like counting down on her like fingers the last few nights. I think that she's like, something else is happening, guys. It's not just going to be her ending the Eras Tour. If it's Reputation, of course, I'll be happy with that. But like, she's clearly Easter egging the Wizard of Oz and these very queer coded themes. It doesn't mean nothing. With her, it always means something. So those are the theories. Next week, we are going to be talking about the meet me at midnight theory and how this kind of applies to all of this. Burning down the lover house theory, and obviously performance art lure. Again, I think all of these are kind of coupled together to show this journey of her self-acceptance and then also like her breaking out of like what people expect her to be, of like Miss Americana. So we'll cover that, and then literally the Eras Tour ends and we all go into depression. And I'm just hoping that at the end of this, we get met with a gorgeous, delicious surprise instead of just mourning the end of the Eras Tour. So I'll see you guys next week. And reminder to subscribe if you haven't already. And please rate me 5 stars. Even if you do not listen on YouTube, go right now. It's so easy. You don't need an account. You just click subscribe. It's free. It's so easy, but I need you to do it. Okay. Bye, guys.